Welcome back. So closing the gender gaps in many sectors is important, through mentorship, quota system, to empower the woman to have visibility, not just visibility, but a viable platform of expression and opportunity as their male counterparts in other fields. But what is peculiar about the tourism sector, and what's inside this package of the Regional Women Tourism Congress, powered by the government of Sierra Leone through its Ministry of Tourism and the United Nations? Let's find out together as we have joining us on the program this morning, Mrs. Nabila Tunis. She's the Minister of Tourism in Sierra Leone. Good morning and welcome, Ms. Tunis, to the program. It's good to have you.
Good morning, and it's good to be here as well.
Yes, and we are welcomed by a wan smile. Thank you for joining us again. So,
thank you.
I've already set the tone for you, for particularly those who would be looking at this regional tourism conference and say, oh, these gender advocates have come again. There is enough room of participation for everyone. Of course, there are male members of the workforce in the tourism space globally. What are they trying to achieve with this slant for Women in Tourism Congress?
Thank you very much. Sierra Leone is hosting the Women in Tourism Congress in Freetown, Sierra Leone from the 29th to the 31st of October. And the reason is, I'm sure we're all aware, that the tourism landscape is definitely dominated by women. And women within this landscape make about 67% of the workforce. But again, in terms of that empowerment, in terms of us having the requisite tools that are needed to enhance women's empowerment within that space is kind of difficult. And this Congress seeks to go beyond empowerment to access to finance, innovation, and education. So this conference would seek to go beyond the conversations that we have, but also equip women with the specific tools that they need to advance progress within the tourism landscape. And it's interesting, currently, almost all over the world, people are understanding clearly that tourism is one space that can help us accelerate progress on the SDGs. And we're not just talking about SDG 5. We're looking at the other SDGs, SDG 4 on education, SDG 8, SDG 10, and even partnerships. So this regional congress seeks to bring all women together in Sierra Leone to discuss and find a way, map a way, a concrete pathway for advancing women's empowerment within this huge space, this huge platform, and this huge industry that can advance women's empowerment and address Goal 5 of the SDGs. It's also aligned very closely with the ECOWAS and the AU agenda.
Now, Ms. Tunis, tourism is a very veritable sector. I mean, it's projected to contribute $11 trillion to global GDP in 2024, and we're in September already. So I reckon, all of the dollars are coming into different countries through their tourism sectors. In UAE alone, it's projected to contribute 11% to its GDP this year. But for those who do not know that, wow, women dominate the tourism sector globally, 60% is quite a huge number. What are the job opportunities inherent, particularly for those who are considering, embarking on this? That's behind, the history education component, travel, tourism, and all of that. What are the other job opportunities, particularly the enlightenment segment of the conference that is coming up, in Sierra Leone, that people can take advantage of, to say, I want to embark on a profession in the tourism sector?
Well, interestingly, the conference itself is mainly focusing on objectives, on 4 objectives. And it's looking at mentorship, it's looking at education and training, basically providing specialized training programs and educational resources tailored to women in tourism. It's also going to look at conducting capacity building sessions for women. The other, objective is on technology and innovation. We all know that, the digital space now is quite vast. And for women who are engaged in the sector, especially in the creatives, which is an aspect of our culture, and it's one critical component of advancing tourism, it's going to create that access to innovation, utilizing technological tools and ensuring that these tools, these digital platforms are available to women as a conduit for whatever creative aspect or creative space that has been created within communities. It also aims to delve deeper into access to finance. And it's not just accessing, the resources, but also providing, the little skills that we need for financial, literacy training, looking at investment strategies, understanding as well, other funding opportunities so women can access these opportunities. It's also an opportunity to have a lot of knowledge sharing as well. We understand that the tourism landscape is quite diverse, and opening up, these avenues of opportunities for women is critical in terms of enhancing our not only the networking that we do have, but also enhancing the space that women get within the tourism landscape and within the tourism industry. So it's going to be an opportunity for us to share, best practices across the continent, because this Congress is about the African continent, focusing on women within the continent itself. What tools can we provide for women within communities, for women in managerial positions, getting women to move up the ladder, not just staying within that lower cadre of the workforce, but equipping them with the tools that they need to enhance what it is that they're doing and provide that space that can accelerate progress on SDG 5.
And now, as I said earlier, other countries in the Middle East and in Europe are making, a lot of, they're increasing the economy, their GDP through the tourism sector. But the same cannot particularly said about most countries in Africa, especially because of, the nebulous, policy on travel and interconnectedness. What's on offer in terms of education in this area, and how all of those travel restrictions can be addressed such that there can be more opportunities for tourism and increased earnings in tourism in the African space?
Right. If you kind of really observe, the tourism landscape has become, there's a lot of engagement around the tourism landscape these days, and connectivity within Africa is one thing that we aim to look at critically. But one thing that this Congress also aims to achieve, aside from providing, these necessary tools to enhance women's empowerment within the tourism landscape and hive out and harness the potential that we do have as women within the tourism workforce, it also aims to have a specific agenda item that will be taken up at the continental level, to ensure that member states implement this particular agenda item to advance women's empowerment within the tourism landscape. So things which have been the topic of conversation: how do we ensure that we have seamless borders? Issues like connectivity, issues like access, looking at how could we ensure that Africans can travel to African countries better? How can we ensure that Africans invest in African countries and build those local economies that can give us the resilience for tourism? Most of these things are going to be part of the Women in Tourism Leadership African Committee, which will start the discussions on a specific agenda item to be taken on board at the Women's Regional Congress. So it's more than just focusing on women, but it's also how can we utilize this platform to advance, some sort of consensus in terms of integrating Africa. We have all the tools that we need, but what can we do to go further to ensure that there's a seamless access, there's a seamless movement? So things like how can we get countries to open up their airspaces better and ensure that connectivity between maybe the West and the South is a lot more seamless? How can we look into issues like visa waivers, or visa entry protocols are waived to enhance the movement within and between African countries?
And Ms. Tunis, most African countries are signatory to a number of protocols, but these are more effective on paper, but rather than in practice. Are you worried that, some of the commitments that you hope to secure as a result of deliberations from this conference may not, go through in practical when, they will be put to test in ensuring that, your Congress is a success in promoting tourism in Africa? Charity begins at home. Do you have those worries?
Anyone would have any worries whenever you're embarking on a program of this nature. But again, I am convinced and I'm encouraged by the fact that African countries are increasingly understanding the potential that you have within the tourism landscape, not to only connect Africa itself, but to also utilize the industry itself to see how we can advance progress within the continent. So what we need to do as a Congress, what we need to do as a committee is to keep the conversation going in collaboration with UN Tourism, because this is a very, very unique workforce, and it's a unique opportunity for us to increase connectivity within Africa. It's also an opportunity for us to ramp up, growth and economic development within the African continent as a whole. So what we need to do and what we're charged to do, and I think we're really ready across all the female tourism ministers, the tourism actors who are part of this Congress and part of the committee, we're all willing and able to continue the conversation to take it up to a continental level where member states would understand the value and the importance of implementing actionable policies and actionable plans to advance tourism and advance women's empowerment within the tourism landscape. So I feel eventually, as we're having this conversation, I do know that people would warm up to this idea and realize that it is beneficial to the continent as a whole to plug in and work with this. And eventually we would end up addressing some of the barriers that women do face within the workforce.
And I imagine that, the women will approach the negotiations in getting a favorable policy with all of their negotiating skills and, get some positive results. Let's bring in a he for she now into the conversation. My colleague Kayode has some questions for you. And I warn you that he's a humorous he for she, but he's a good sport. Kayode.
Well, thank you, Bukola, for that introduction. Well, Minister, it's quite interesting to hear you speak about this, right? And I just imagine the potentials. But I don't want to just imagine. I want you to basically be our tour guide on this one. They say that tourism is basically about sights and sound. So help us to envision what a future with women actively participating in tourism, what it looks like. Maybe this can help sell this dream, this vision, this what you're trying to achieve to people. So what will the tourist sector in Africa with more women participation look like?
We all know the power that women bring to the table in every aspect and every sphere. And tourism is one of those industries that can provide the tools that Africa needs to accelerate progress. We all know that Africa also, in its tourism landscape, provides a lot of authenticity. The cultures complement each other. People visit countries like Sierra-Leone. You visit Nigeria. You visit countries in the east and in the north. Each country has a unique product to sell, and that complements the African dream and the African reality. And this is what the women are going to bring to the table, understanding that women have this potential, women have the tools, women understand how they can navigate and progress along this landscape, this particular industry. And it's like unlocking the African tourism landscape to the entire world, to the globe. And this is what this particular Congress will start with, opening up the space, having discussions, not only with women in one specific cadre, but bringing in women from communities. I'm sure we have women in Nigeria who are in the creative industry, who are looking for digital space. They're looking for a space whereby they can unleash and unlock their potential, critically showing the unique value that we have in Nigeria. It's the same in Sierra Leone. We have a lot of women women are promoting our culture. We have a lot of beauty in our country, sites, places to visit, beaches, islands, whatever it is that you have as a country. It is a unique product and it is authentic in Africa. And this Congress will start to showcase and unlock the authenticity that Africa offers in the tourism landscape, not wanting to look at some of the negatives that always permeate, the news and the social media outlets, but focusing on the authenticity that Africa brings to the table.
Quickly, as we wind down, what is this conversation without our favorite spots, right? Next time you visit Nigeria, what's your favorite thing about Nigeria, for example? The meal or the cuisines, the places? What is that thing that you would want to explore next time you're in Nigeria?
The music. The music. The entertainment.
Which is your favorite for now?
I don't want to be biased. You've got so much to offer that it's hard to have a favorite, but you've got lots of them anyway in the entertainment industry, and they are making waves as well.
Way to go. Of course, we would also look forward to exploring Sierra Leone and the beautiful places and people there. Well, Bukola, over to you now. I think it's only fair that women will wrap up this conversation.
Well, for me, Kade, I'll be interested in exploring some of those communities in Sierra Leone that share similar ancestry with some, ethnic groups in Nigeria. I imagine that we have, a similar history, historical development. And, we're one, really. Would like to anchor at this point. Thank you so much, Ms. Tunis, for your time on the program. Ms. Nabila Tunis is the Minister of Tourism in Sierra Leone. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
And this is where we anchor at this point on the program. But it's the start of the week already. There's so much to look forward to. And Channels Television is following all of those developing stories for you. So stay with us for all the important updates that you need to get your week going. Thank you for watching from this side of the divide in Lagos. I am Bukola Koka.
From the nation's capital, Abuja, I'm Kayode Okikilo. Don't forget, Sunrise Daily is next, and we have a package for you. Stay with us.